out on you, my baby. I'm just not the right kind of girl for you. You deserve somebody who's loving you. You shouldn't call me later. Promise it's for the better. I'm just not the right kind of girl for you. Cause I got a rule. I hold on to my heart. Share with nobody. I don't want nobody else. Yeah, I hold on to my heart. Give it up for nobody. I just keep it to myself. I ain't got room for love. I don't need stars above. All I need is my precious space. Yeah, yeah.
Hello and welcome to my channel. It's the Network Specialist. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell so that you know each and every time I upload a video. Everything I will discuss in this video is alleged and in my very own opinion, used for entertainment purposes only. Today I will be doing a recap of Next Gen Season 1, Episode 3. Daddy issues and poolside tissues. Okay, now let's go ahead and get into it. I have a feeling that I'm going to have to do a part two, and I will be doing that at 5 o'clock. Well, five ish. Between 5 o'clock and 5:15, I will be doing a part two because lately I have been kind of running out of time, but I have to, take advantage of the time I have and then make up for that. Okay. So Ava went to go visit Charlie to do damage control after Brooke told her, what happened the night before. But of course, Charlie didn't take any accountability. And it's kind of getting repetitive. Like every time they get together, Charlie is always the problem. And he never wants to own up to it. And he never wants to take accountability. I'm really just wondering why he's hanging out with such a young group of people anyway. But I think it's because he's so immature that he kind of fits in. But the problem is they're more mature than this 29-year-old man, and they're only, around 22. And he just seems to be that one friend you got that some shit goes down or pops off every time he comes around. He's just that guy until you stop inviting him. And Mama B says, Charlie needs to get gone. I don't like him at all. Um, I don't like Charlie either, Mama B's, but I think it comes from his upbringing and what he dealt with at home with his parents. So I blame Charlie, but then again, I don't blame Charlie. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. So Brooke shared with his dad that he has a boyfriend. And it's great that Brooke's dad is very supportive of his sexual orientation. But I did think it was a little odd when he asked him about his sex life. So, and obviously Brooke thought it was odd too. He said, I don't really feel like I should be discussing my sex life with you. Hey, Sharon Gottwald, thank you so much for being here. And then he had the nerve to ask those conversations, does he have that conversation with his mom? And Brooke said he does, but sometimes, especially when, you know, um, you're coming up as a gay teenager, it's hard to have those conversations with your dad. It's probably easier to have that conversation with your mom versus your dad for obvious reasons. But his dad told him that, he wants him to look at him like a mother, you know, and that he wanted a deeper emotional connection with him. And I thought that was interesting, but not a bad thing. Anytime a parent is trying to connect with their kid, that's always going to be a win for me. And then the conversation started to get a little bit more interesting when he asked him about his boyfriend's body count. And Brooke said a very mature thing. He said, "What about my body count?" Like, his father wasn't even focused. Like, maybe he's slept with, more people than his boyfriends, but his dad was interested, you know, about the body count of his boyfriend. And I feel like if that had been his daughter, he probably wouldn't have asked that question. Or if his child had been straight, I don't think he would have asked that question. And that's what makes kids that are, you know, bisexual or in the whole entire LGBTQ community feel some kind of way about talking to their parents out of fear that they're going to be judged. But overall, he just wants the best for his son. And sometimes parents just don't know how to navigate when it comes to these type of subjects. And all we can really do at the end of the day is just do the best that we can. We move on from that to Teresa Judice and her daughter Gia. They were discussing her getting a Brazilian wax, Teresa, that is. And she could have just kept it surface level, but she started talking about intimate body parts, just giving TMI. So I thought that was a little strange, but that goes back to the conversation that we had a week or so ago about how growing up in a white home is different from growing up in a black home. Okay, because it just seems like they're a lot more open with their kids and they have conversations that I would never imagine having with my mom or me having with my kids. And it doesn't always have to be a bad thing, but sometimes when you expose your kids to so much so soon, they're already going to experience so much out there with their friends, but just having that like at home, like you need structure at home because it's bad enough you don't know what they're going to go through when they're out there hanging out with their friends. So you want home to be a calm place where all be extra stuff and just too much. So Charlie met up with his mom and her boyfriend, and now I got a better idea of where Charlie comes from and why he acts the way that he does. It seems like he didn't get much attention when he was a child because, he said that his mom was a kind of artsy type person and she wasn't there a lot. And I think he lived with his mom up until he was like maybe 10. And then he went to go live with his dad because I guess it got to a point where his mom kind of didn't want to be a parent at all. And Mama B says, his dad seemed creepy to me, especially when he met with Charlie. I think that dad may be bi curious. Absolutely, Mama Bees. And we're going to definitely talk about that. So, because Charlie did not get a lot of love, affection, and attention growing up, now it seems like when he's around his friends, he wants to be the center of attention. And I honestly believe that's why he acts the way he acts, is because at the end of the day, he wants it to be all about Charlie. So during this conversation, it came up, and his mom's boyfriend mentioned that his mom dated his best friend first. And so then he went on to say, but she broke up with him because, he was boring. but he couldn't understand that because his friend had a 9-inch Peter Weeder. And I'm like, I can't with white people. Why is he having this discussion with his girlfriend's son? And this is what I'm talking about. Like, talking about, and then Charlie even followed up with, well, how would you know that? And I agree. How would you know that your friend has a 9-inch penis? Like, I don't know why they're showing all of this on this show, but I guess it's because this is their real lives and this is the, conversations that they have with their parents. And I'm going to be honest, I couldn't really talk to my mom about a lot because, out of the fear of being judged. And I just would like it to be somewhere in the middle. Like what I've seen on this show, I wouldn't even want that for myself or my kids. But at the same time, your kids should be able to have conversations with you about anything. Like when it came time, I guess I was probably in junior high school, middle school is what they call it now. When it came time to have the discussion about sex, my mom didn't feel comfortable. So my mom had one of her friends, which just happens to be a white lady. um, she sat us down, me and my sisters, and she had that conversation with us. And even though it would have been awkward with my mom, I still would have preferred the conversation to be with my mom than kind of like a stranger. But it is what it is. My mom was heavily into the church, and, those conversations were kind of uncomfortable for her. And I get it because they were uncomfortable for me. But this show is the perfect example of the differences of being raised in a black home versus a white home. So Brooks meet up with his friend Shy, and Riley joined them. Brooke just recently launched an athleisure line, which I'm assuming is an athletic leisure line, which consists of only one tracksuit. So I guess it's going to be like a one tracksuit at a time type of situation. And I'm just really paying attention to what a lot of these kids got going on. And don't get me wrong, most of them, especially like Riley, she just graduated from college. So she doesn't even like know what she's going to do at this point. Like all they say when they, show Riley is, she just recently graduated. And that's perfectly cool because sometimes it takes a while for you to figure out life. I mean, that doesn't come very easily. So a lot of these kids are just breaking into being an adult, figuring everything out. And, so they haven't really figured out what they're going to actually do as a career. But most of them are trying, they are trying, like I said, Brooke is, you know, trying to get into the fashion industry. And Ariana is pretty much doing the same thing. And it seems like with this group of kids, they're either wanting to be in the fashion industry, like when it comes to, a fashion line, or they want to be a model. So that seems to be repetitious within this group of kids. So Brooke invited his friend over because he bought some new fabric, and I guess he wanted his friend sews on a regular basis, outside of working. He sews for fun, and he shared that his mom came over, installed some curtains in his apartment, and he said that he took the curtains down and he made them into a pair of pants that he had on. So I thought that was very interesting for this young man to be so young, but he's really good, you know, at being a seamstress. So I'm pretty sure Brooke is going to learn a lot from him. And that's definitely somebody that Brooke needs to have around. And maybe eventually they can start a line together and work together since that's what they are both interested in. So Georgia had an interesting art exhibit. And the reason why I say that is because some of the art had nothing. Like it was just a blank slate, pretty much. And just some interesting pieces. But I'm pretty sure we have all figured out that Georgia is just different. Like she's always kind of like in her own world and she's just different. And Sharon said, I just like Riley, Ariana, and Brooke so far. Okay, Sharon. Yeah, those are pretty much my faves as well. I really, really, you know what? Those are exactly who my faves are. And Mama B says, was that art? Well, yes, that was her version of art, but we're not surprised because everything about Georgia is just kind of weird at this point. So after the art exhibit, they hung out, and overall, this time there was no drama. Charlie apologized to Ariana's boyfriend and welcomed them to New York and said that he really would like to get to know them better. And honestly, I feel like being in this group setting is actually helping Charlie, even though he should be the one being the role model for these younger kids. They're actually teaching Charlie a lot. And I think it's actually giving Charlie like a sense of home and something that he didn't really receive when he was coming up as a kid. So I think he likes the fact that he has a support system and it feels like a family. So I think that's why he stays there. But I noticed that every time he hangs out with the group, he always leaves and go and hang out somewhere else. So I don't know if he just wants to be around so he can be on this TV show or if he just doesn't see it for this group of people. And maybe when he leaves, he's going to hang out with older people where he can actually be himself and act his age. So Charlie and Dylan meet up with some girls. Like I said, they always leave. And Georgia got really drunk and they left her with Riley. Even though Riley had literally almost just met Georgia. So um don't leave me with the drunk girl. And Georgia didn't even have a phone. So that was a little too much for Riley. And I think Riley is starting to feel a little awkward in this group. So even though when that scene happened, I kind of felt like Riley needs to get a backbone. But then as the episode continued, that's when I seen a different side of Riley. So Brooke's dad reached out to Charlie, even though Brooke told him that he was able to handle the situation himself. His dad still decided to reach out to Charlie. And like you said, Mama Bees, his dad is really different. I'm not going to say he's weird, he's just different. And a lot of that is going to become clear in just a moment. So he called Charlie and invited him to, meet up with him. And he let Charlie know that he cares about him and he pretty much just wants to offer support. And I like that because it takes a village. Patty, I'm not really sure why you're here. Like, I've never seen you here and you just come in here with the BS. So, guys, we just had a troll and she asked me why am I coming in here with the BS and she's coming on my channel. Never been here before. But that's interesting. Moving right along. So, they meet up and he tells Charlie that He always wanted to be a life coach, and he wants Charlie to be his non-genetic client. And although Charlie wasn't too thrilled about meeting up with him, he couldn't say no because that's his friend's dad. So Charlie only went on one date with Chloe. So he's a little taken aback by all of the family involvement. And he has not even asked Chloe on a second date. So he's just really unsure why all the family is getting involved. Because I think before, when he was joking around with Brooke, even though it was disrespectful, like he had only went on one date. So he wasn't really taking it all too serious. And the other thing is every time they tell that story about the first date between Chloe and Charlie, the story changes. Like, and that's the thing about when people gossip, every time the story is told, it changes. So it's never going to be, the same as what it initially started out as. At this point, Charlie doesn't even remember what he said. So as the meetup goes along, Charlie seems like he's open to, Brooke's dad, being an influence or, um, and he's okay with his approach to parenting. And the fact that, Brooks and Chloe's dad is, pretty open or whatever the case may be, is totally different from the parenting skill set that his mom and dad got. So he's kind of feeling the conversation, especially when he shared with him that, well, first, let me back up. Charlie shared with Brooks' dad that his roommate Dylan was pansexual, and they got into this whole conversation. He was explaining to Charlie's dad, I'm sorry, Brooks' dad, what a pansexual is and things like that. And then this crazy man told Charlie that, that's what he is trying to get to, but don't tell his wife. So Brooks' dad told Charlie that he's trying to become a pansexual, but don't tell his wife. Like, now Charlie is probably going to spread this rumor within the group. And I wonder how that's going to make Brooke and Chloe feel that his dad shared this information with Charlie that he hadn't even probably shared with them yet. It's okay, Mama Bees. It'll take me a minute to figure out how to do that. So I thought that was very awkward. So, what do y'all think about this group so far? Like the parents, just like, what do y'all think about the fact that these parents have such open conversation with their kids? Like the fact that Gia's mom was talking about she got a Brazilian wax, and she was talking about her backside with her daughter, and that the lady didn't, use any numbing cream and just all of this stuff. Like every time there's been a meetup with one of the parents, like these conversations have went so far, like beyond even my comfort level as an adult. So it's just kind of weird that they're so open with their kids. Like I get it. You want to be able to talk to your kids about anything, but like you're putting stuff into your kids' head that they don't even need to know at this point. And Sharon said, Charlie is a no for me, in my opinion. He's not trustworthy. Yeah, I think if my child was hanging out with Charlie, I would feel some kind of way about that. And I probably would be doing everything I can to get Charlie away from my child just because he does come off as a bad influence. And he's much more advanced than these kids. Like some of these girls, well, I take that back. Probably only, well, I take that back. I was going to say that Riley is probably the only one in this group that's a virgin, but I can't even say that about Riley because, Candy has kept Riley very well hidden, and I don't blame her. I'm just saying we haven't really experienced Riley's personality, which is why I'm watching this show so that I can get to know Riley because, I can't even predict how I think Riley would be in her social settings. It's very hard to predict. So the group gets together and they're on their way to Gia's house for a pool party. And on the way, Riley started crying because she got into a disagreement with Charlie once again, the center of attention. And she said that she just doesn't like the way that they're always trying to depict her as the scary black girl. Okay. So when Riley got emotional, like it came out of nowhere. So I'm like, oh. And then Ava was trying to defend her, and she was just telling Charlie, even though you don't think what you said was offensive, and then Charlie called Riley out because Riley used the term white people or whatever, and he said that he didn't see why she had to use that term or whatever. So it's giving that I don't know if this group is right for Riley. That's kind of what it's giving, but we'll just have to see. So I'm going to end on that note, and keep in mind I will be back um, between 5 and 5:15 to wrap this up and do a part two. And Mama B said the parents seem like they want to be on the show. I don't like it. Well, honestly, I think it would be kind of boring without the parents because honestly, meeting the parents has kind of given me a better idea about the kids on the show. So I kind of like bringing in, the parents for a quick visit. Now, I don't think they're going to always have to do this, but since some of these kids are the, children of, the housewives, I think it was very important for us to make the connection between the kids and their parents. Now, and honestly, they might still show up here and there, but I think as the show goes along, we won't see the parents as much. So this is kind of still like introduction because this is only the third episode. And Sharon said, with Gia's mother, I wouldn't expect anything coming out of her mouth. She has no filter. And see, that's something that you guys know that I don't know because I didn't watch her show. I only watch The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I have not watched any of the other franchises. And Sharon said, it's so apparent Charlie doesn't like Riley. I think he's intimidated by Riley. You know how Black women always get that, people are always intimidated by a lot of us. So he's no different. And then Riley's kind of tall. So the fact that she's tall, she lost a lot of weight, so she's not tall and big anymore, but she's still very tall. So I think that, that intimidates him, especially since I think that he's kind of, what would I want to call that? He has that weak personality in that honestly, it wouldn't take much just to break him down. So I think he's afraid of having that conversation where Riley just really tears his ass down. And Mama B says, if you watch The Housewives, you know who their parents are except Charlie. Got it. And see, I'm going in blind. I have no idea. So, guys, make sure you have your notifications set because I will, give out an alert, a 30-minute alert that I'll be going live. So, I will be back at 5 to wrap this up. If you did not like the video on your way in, please like the video on your way out. And if you just happen to be catching the replay, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. And drop down in the comments so that we can keep this conversation going. And bye for now.